Oh, good morning. Jesus is Lord. The Word works. Jesus said what he meant, and he meant what he said. When I was a young pastor, 21, 22, I pastored my first church when I was 19. I had this little boy come up. He was 12 years old. Had his little Bible with him. He said, let me show you what I found here. Jesus said, I can ask God for anything. I said, well, we got to understand, in my religious tone, God didn't always say what he meant and didn't mean what he said. He looked at me kind of funny. He said, preacher, you got a book what tells me which ones God said that he meant and which ones he really meant and didn't mean? I thought about that for a minute. I said, I'll get back to you on that one. I went to the leadership of the church that I was pastoring, the denominational church that I was pastoring, and I presented them with a question which they couldn't answer either. And so it was either God said what he meant and he meant what he said, or either this whole Bible. You couldn't trust the thing. If you're going to believe this, you're going to believe what he said. Changed my whole life. It wasn't too long after that I got turned on to the Word and, left that denominational setting to go out and do what I believed God called me to do, which I'm still doing, 50 years later. So I want to read this to you. Had to kind of set that up. Jesus said in verse 23 of the Gospel of John, chapter 16. So John 16:23, pretty big stuff. Might be bigger than some of you can handle. But let me read this. And in that day, now the day that he's talking about is our day, right now. And in that day ye shall ask me nothing. Now watch. Verily, verily, I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall ask the Father in my name, he will give it you. What? Verily, verily, I say unto you, whatsoever. Notice it didn't say what you deserve. Notice it didn't say whatsoever you need. Didn't say whether or not you were perfect or not. Just Jesus said, verily, verily. That means, hey, listen up. I want to talk to you here. Verily, verily, I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall ask the Father in my name, he will give it you. Now, we had 3 little boys. I'm talking 30 years ago because I guess she's 38, 39, 40 years ago because my daughter's that old. And, of course, she has grandchildren. My daughter has grandchildren, which, of course, makes me have great-grandchildren. So we're talking 39, 40 years ago. We had 3 little boys. The youngest one was 6 years old. Now, that would be Matthew. And so one day we heard him in there praying. We said, Matthew, what you believing for? We want to pray with you, And he says, I'm believing for a baby sister. I said, well, you can forget that. Because 3 sons, we were quite satisfied with our family. And God doesn't do things to you. But within a few months, Pat and I began to desire another child. I mean, it just happened. We just kind of got a hold of it. We'd like to have another baby. So we was talking about it one day, and I said, but this time we want a blonde-headed, blue-eyed, dimpled baby girl that's got all your good features and my 1 or 2 good features. That's just gorgeous. And we began to pray that way. I mean, we're talking 40 years ago here. And so people would say, when Pat was obviously pregnant, what are you hoping for? We're not hoping. We have a blonde-headed, blue-eyed, dimpled girl. And they said, you're crazy. Oh, no. We went to this verse and we shared it with them where Jesus said, and in that day, which that's our day now, verily, verily, I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall ask the Father in my name, he will give it you. Well, we got real specific. In fact, everything I pray is very specific. Now watch this. I'm going to try to help you here today. You go clothes shopping, okay? You go down to the mall and you want to buy you a couple of pair of pants or a couple of pair of shirts. You don't go in there and take whatever they got, whether it's the right size or not. You go to the table where the pants are. You look at a particular size. I know exactly what I wear, 46-32, and I go to that section. And I go through it and I pick out not only the brand, but I pick out the color that I want. Do the same thing with my shirts. I wear a 2X LT, two sizes large, and it's got to be long, LT, because that's the size of my body. I don't go over to the small section. I don't go looking over there at the medium section. I look for two XLTs. I go through the rack and I find that little section where there's two XLTs, and I get very specific. And Patty says, "What do you think about this?" "I don't like that." "What do you think about this?" "Now I really like that," and I buy the one that I really like. Nobody gets upset about that. But when you pray and you get specific, people think, "Well, you can't do that. Why not? God's bigger than the mall. God's bigger than the stores that you're going in. God said, 'Ask and you shall receive.'" So I wanted to share another testimony today, but I'll come back to it tomorrow. So we wanted a little girl. Had three wonderful sons, all great, still are, still have them. But we wanted a little girl, so we got specific. Blonde-headed, blue-eyed, dimples. See, I got dimples, okay? With all of Pat's good features. And we began to say that and believe that. We went to the Father and said, "Father, in the name of Jesus, we're asking you for a blonde-headed, blue-eyed, dimpled girl." We wrote it on our green card. I told you about that. And we believed God for it. Well, everybody thought, "You're crazy." My mother and daddy told me, "You're crazy." Other people told me we're crazy. Church was running 30, 40 people. We lost about half the church because, pastor's gone crazy. Well, on 9 months later, after we prayed that prayer, we had a blonde-headed, blue-eyed, dimpled little girl, and we named her Joy because joy cometh in the morning. And, of course, she's got 3 children of her own and 2 grandchildren, and we got exactly what blonde hair, blue-eyed, dimples, everything on it. And she is absolutely gorgeous because she looks so much like her mother, who is absolutely gorgeous. So we got what we wanted because we prayed God's way. Now, I'm going to come back to this tomorrow. But if God doesn't have it, he'll make it for you. So you can be very specific. I don't pray for a car. I pray for a particular car and a particular color. Probably get somebody upset, but we were at a meeting one time and old Frederick K.C. Price got up and said, "I'm probably the only black pastor you're going to see that drives a white Rolls Royce." I'm sitting next to Pat and I punch her. I said, "Well, hey, if that black pastor can drive a white Rolls, this white pastor can drive a black Rolls Royce, and I want you to know I got it." Wasn't long after that either, just a year or so. I got that thing, and I drove it for 25 years. Until I just wore it out. I enjoyed it. I loved riding around in it and said, "Look what God hath done." Didn't give but $29,000 for it. It wasn't brand new by any stretch of the imagination, but it was, cheaper than buying a new car. Had what God said I could have because I believed what God said. Remember, you ain't got to have no book that tells you which ones he meant and which ones he wasn't sure about. Go to the book, do what it says, and you'll be blessed in everything that you do. So until I'm with you tomorrow, saints, remember, Jesus is Lord. Thank God the Word works.